Happy Friday, you guys. I just wanted to do a quick recap from youth group last night. It was so fun to hang out with you guys, play grog, of course, eat pizza, and just have some good discussion. And last night specifically, we are continuing to explore all these strange passages in the Bible that we find and trying to figure out, like, what does God actually believe? What does the Bible actually say about this stuff? And last night we talked about women. What does the Bible actually say about women? Because there are some weird Bible verses that make it sound like God is anti-women. And so we had to process that together. Is what does the Bible actually say? And so we went back to the story of creation to see what was God's original design. And what was really fun to see is that God actually designed both men and women in his image to be co-rulers over creation. He made them in his image, and he said to both of them to go out into the world and take care of creation. And so we know, well, God's design isn't for women to be seen as less than or less valuable. And when we look at the whole story of the Bible, we see, wow, God is actually advocating for women in the face of inequality. But that's really confusing, because where did all this inequality came from? And it's crazy because when you look in Genesis chapter 3, after God creates humanity and the world and all the beautiful things we see, all of a sudden, sin comes into the world. When Adam and Eve ate from that fruit off that tree, they disobeyed God. They decided to define good and bad for themselves. All of a sudden, it was like a nuclear bomb went off in God's creation. And the shrapnel impacted everything, including how we treat one another and how women and men function in the world. Isn't that really interesting? God didn't create inequality. He didn't create slavery, just like we talked about last week. He didn't want us to go and worship other gods. All this stuff began when sin entered the world through Adam and Eve, when they sinned and they decided to trust themselves instead of trusting God. And so for us, I think the interesting thing is to see when we come to these weird verses that don't make sense is to look at, okay, this is not something God created. God is advocating throughout the Bible for women. But for some reason, the world is treating women poorly. And so when God says weird things in the Bible, we have to look at, well, what was God trying to do? How was he advocating for women? What was happening at this time? And that helps us to understand these verses. But here's the thing that I wanted to sort of challenge us with it, is we need to process, why does this actually matter? And what is our role? Because when we look throughout the Bible, it seems like God is actually inviting us to be a part of advocating for the equality of all people. He's inviting us to be a part of treating people as if they are made in the image of God and bringing about the justice that his heart seeps out into the world. He wants us to be a part of that. And so for you guys, I just want to challenge you. How are you being a part of that? How are you maybe partaking in how the world treats people poorly and treats people as if they're not made in the image of God? How are you helping? What is God asking you to do? And here's the other thing. Have you ever been treated that you weren't enough or that you didn't have value? I want you to know that that is a lie, that you were made in the image of God. You have value, you have purpose. And if anyone has ever treated you like that, you need to know that's wrong. It's not okay. And that's not how God sees you. And he wants you to know you have worth, you are valued. He made you. So this week, let's keep reflecting on that together. And hopefully next week, we can kind of process together more as we continue this conversation. So we love you guys so much. Have an awesome weekend. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye, you guys.